Welcome to the Asking Why podcast. I'm your host, Clint Davis, and I have a friend of mine today that I'm excited about being here. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and his name is Ben Whalen. Welcome,
Yes,
Ben.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Clint.
Absolutely, man. So you are an entrepreneur. You've owned several businesses, but you own one major business right now in Shreveport, and it's called Clean Slate Botanicals.
Yes, sir.
So tell us, I wanted to talk today, what we're going to talk about, guys, is just being a small business owner, being an African-American small business owner in Shreveport in America, how that has happened, how that happens, and then maybe some pitfalls and struggles, and then just a little bit of your story. So we'll kind of go all over the map. One thing I've really valued about you is just who you are character-wise, like how much you've tried to like make not a name for yourself, but like created a product and a thing that's different, but that is good. But just really engaging with our community and being at things, being at events, doing the farmer's market, doing those things, and just kind of watching you quickly, grow a business and then take risks and all those things. So tell us kind of who you are, where you're from, and then tell us about Clean Slate and how that came about.
Yeah. So, my name's Ben Whalen. I'm a Shreveport guy, Shreveport kid. I grew up here in our lovely city. Went to, graduated from Cattle Magnet High School in 2003. Prior to that, just your average kid growing up, bopping around different neighborhoods. Then I got a job out of high school. After college, I went to Louisiana Tech, got a degree.
How about them dogs?
How about them dogs, baby? Got a degree in merchandising and consumer studies. Did not know how I was going to use the degree. Got a job in corporate America, not utilizing the degree, and thought I would never get back to it. But ended up working as a tech for AT&T, and I was a part of that role from 2004 to 2010. Good little while. That job took me to Chicago, where I was for a good chunk of time. Loved the city. Sorry, I botched the dates. I actually was in Chicago till 2017, so I was with that company for a good little while. But yeah, like it was just a great time of life for me living in Chicago, learning a lot about natural foods, and that's where I fell in love with the farmer's market. That's where I really started adopting a cleaner, more healthier lifestyle.
Okay.
As far as,
Wait, Louisiana, we don't have a clean and healthy lifestyle when it comes to food?
Man, I got to be honest with you, bro. Like when I left, we didn't have a Whole Foods. When I moved to Chicago,
Oh, I know.
When I moved to Chicago, we didn't have a Whole Foods. I didn't know what veganism was. I didn't know what GMOs were. And I wasn't seeking that information out, but it also wasn't like all around me.
Yeah, well, that's also an interesting time because obviously that was 2000 what?
So that was around 2009.
Right. So even then, though, just overall in the culture, unless you lived in like a pretty big liberal city, that wasn't it. That's not a thing.
Right.
So even as it's kind of cool in history as you're moving, that whole movement of eating better and, not that veganism or eating better has not historically been a thing, but just like not been as common. Where now, we have a Whole Foods here.
Yeah.
People are looking at eating healthier. We're seeing the effects of Red 40 and dyes and just all of the things.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's interesting that like you moved there and kind of got exposed to that.
Yeah.
And then have come back,
Well, being in a big city like that and just having all kinds of things around you, like everything has like a flourishing community. Like even if your thing is yoga, it's like yoga everywhere, or gong baths or whatever, whatever. But for me, it was
the gong baths.
I actually did one.
Nice.
It was pretty interesting. It was a unique experience for me. But yeah, it was fun. But that's just kind of being in a big city. It was the first time I ever lived in a city like that. So I was really kind of open to check out new things, and that's where that passion came from. And entrepreneurship as a whole, I feel like I've had that itch, that trait in me. I think as a kid, I was the kid who, exuded some of those qualities. I remember I was a Taekwondo student. My dad was a Taekwondo instructor. and I would go to school, and I would show classmates like the lessons during recess, and actually like simulate being an instructor. So like I would take my belts to school and put them on the kids at school and teach them the forms.
Does your dad know this?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
I've told him this story.
No, did he know it when it was happening?
Oh, I don't think he did. I think I told him later.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but
And your own McDojo going on there.
yeah, during recess at Judson. And you know, it was just kind of in me, you know, in high school.
No, the question was, did you charge them candy bars or did you charge them anything?
I think you know, it's a little hazy, but as I recall, some lunch money was exchanged and some chocolate milks were purchased.
Nice. If you want that extra stripe, I'm gonna need that chocolate milk.
Exactly. I'm gonna need that, and I'll show you the self-defense technique.
That's awesome.
So, and then, you know, I was the kid in high school that had the backpack full of burnt CDs and burned Dreamcast games and, you know.
Using that Napster and that
all
LimeWire.
that, man, just all kinds of viruses on the computer, man. I owe my mom a computer right now for all the viruses.
It's hilarious.
But
for you kids that are out there, a burned CD.
Oh, yeah. Just totally dated myself. Yeah. We did not have access to all the songs all the time on our phones.
Bro, LimeWire and Napster were the best when they came out.
They were,
Burned
man.
CDs, man, that was the jam.
Yeah, don't tell 50 Cent, but I made a lot of money off that first album selling it at school.
Hey, he said get rich or die trying.
He did, and I was after it. I was getting after it. But yeah, so I think, you know, when I took that job in 2009, I kind of set a limit. I said, you know, I'm going to probably do this for 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and then I want to start a business. And so you fast forward to 2017, I'm still with the same company. I kind of got comfortable and fell in love with the appeal of the corporate ladder, and I was climbing it. And, you know, I went from a tech to a supervisor to a manager to being a trainer, and, you know, had made some waves with my team and was feeling really good about it. But getting laid off kind of put me in a position where I was like, all right, it's time to do a little soul searching. You know, I feel like ultimately.
So hold on. So you spent all those years and, you know, kind of climbed the ladder and then just got laid off.
Yeah, it was a serious rug pull. It was really, really strange because we had just been invited to this corporate event in Port St. Lucie, Florida, where I was surprised by receiving an award. I didn't know. I knew there was going to be an award ceremony. I was invited as a trainer just to be a part of the leadership team. But then they actually surprised me with a Wing Beneath Our Wings award.
Oh, man.
And, man, I was so proud.
Did they play the song?
No, they didn't.
Oh,
they didn't, but they gave me the award, and I just was so excited. And I remember I look back at it, I kind of feel like an idiot, but I kind of just got up and went to the front and grabbed the mic, and I just wanted to talk to the people that were there, say something inspiring. It wasn't I didn't know I was getting an award, and it wasn't a part of the thing, but, you know, I was trying to encourage everybody that, you know, whenever you're in a company, just like go hard in your role. Like you never know where you can go. Like I was in y'all's shoes. I was just a tech, you know, and at first I was just doing it for money, but, you know, I really said, you know what, I'm just going to be the best that I can be in this role. And my peers would make fun of me. They would call me A and B, above and beyond. They'd be like, look at A and B over there.
That's hilarious.
Just look at them over there, just doing all this with that customer. But I just looked at it as like, why not use it as training for whenever you need that type of excellence in what you're doing later.
Yeah.
But the reason I kind of felt like an idiot is because I get this award, you know, I'm all excited and jazzed, and the senior leadership team knew that we were about to get our 30-day notice very shortly after that. So I get back.
You felt like an idiot afterwards.
I felt like an idiot afterwards,
Yeah.
right? Because I I get back to work, and then like maybe a week later, we all got noticed that we had 30 days left, and the whole organization. We were subcontracted to perform, you know, a certain level of tech support, and they decided to not move forward with that team. So that's where I was like, all right, like, what am I doing here? You know, that didn't. I felt, you know, expendable. I felt kind of just thrown to the wolves. And so did some soul searching. I was like, just, what is it that I want to do? And I knew I was falling in love with, making products. I had already started experimenting with making products, and I was giving them away as, just gifts, just
Like
as
what?
a passion project. I was making creams and moisturizers and stuff like that in my bedroom in my apartment in Chicago.
Chemist.
Yeah, it was actually really funny. I had a kind of like how this mic is mounted. I had a oil expeller that I had purchased online, mounted to my desk, and I would push almonds through the top of it and manually crank and expel the oil out of these almonds. And it's a long story, but basically I had done way too much research about the almonds in California and what they were pasteurized with and what this chemical could potentially do. And I was very vigilant about trying to produce my own supply, but also just connecting with nature on a level that I normally didn't. So that was fun and cool.
And where did that come from? Like, where did the oils and the moisturizers, like what?
So I guess part of it was I was researching. I had changed my diet. So I was on a strict plant-based diet. And one day I was in my cabinet, opened it up, grabbed my toothpaste, grabbed my lotion to put on. And I was like, wait, let me flip this bottle around and what's even in this product? And so I started looking at the ingredients, and I felt I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to say some of these words, and I definitely don't know what they mean or what they do. And so I remember I took my bottle of lotion and sat down and got on the computer and started typing these ingredients into the computer. And I could not figure out why it was in the product, much less how it benefited the user as a topical ingredient. Like, why are we putting this on our skin? And so
Do you remember an example?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
I used to, some years have passed.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's like food too.
Yeah.
If you just never have a concept to look on the back of a box and see what's in it, our kids have food allergies. And so it's crazy in the last 9.5 years when we're constantly getting mad of why would you put this in here?
Yeah, for sure.
Because our kids can't eat it now and it's unnecessary.
Right.
It's I would not even have known that dairy was in this, or that eggs were in this, or that avocado was in this, or that, this fruit was in this, or pea protein is literally in so many things.
Everything.
And you're like, what? So you start looking into why that is. And so I think it's kind of a cool thing that you started looking at why are these things involved in the things we're putting literally on our bodies and going into our skin.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. You put things on your skin, and most people think you're just moisturizing the outer layer of your skin, but your skin is like a sponge. It goes through your skin, and then a certain percentage of what penetrates your skin can end up in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
So that's where I was like, you know what? Let me try and get better about this. And so then I go on Amazon and I'm like, all right, all natural lotion. I type that in and I'm looking at the product and I'm looking at the ingredients and I'm like, this says it's all natural, but it's still got all these chemicals and I don't even know what they are. So then I was like, all right, block of shea butter. Just give me raw shea butter and some jojoba oil and some, grapeseed oil, and I'm just gonna blend it and I'm gonna put it in a goodness gracious, I can't even think of the word, a mixer, and mix it up myself. And so that was kind of the process of how I got into it in the first place.
Yeah.
And the products were, man, they were so trash at first. I wouldn't dare.
What's not at the beginning?
Yeah. But it's funny because, I used to take it to work and, people wondering what I was using, and I would share it with people and they'd be like, bro, this is so greasy. Why, how do you do this? And I'm like, I don't care.
It's healthy.
I know it doesn't have anything. I know exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
But over time, refine that recipe. It took me 5 or 6 iterations before it was product ready to sell. Yeah.
And so then you just started handing that out to people.
Yeah. So after I got laid off my job, I was living in Chicago, and I said, you know what, I'm going to design a little label, logo, put it on the product, and I literally walked out the steps, got on the train, and started making conversations with strangers on the train. Would not recommend.
Yeah.
Not in the city like Chicago.
No.
They're used to being bombarded all the time with people
Nonsense.
trying to haggle them or talking about stuff. But then I started sitting in the lobbies of hotels and working on my laptop, working on stuff, sparking up conversations. Had the website by that time. And
what was it called then?
Ben's Body Basics.
That's right.
So Ben's B3, that was the original logo. I was going for like the little scientific like B with the 3 on it, and it was humble beginnings, but it was a lot of fun when I first started out. And then I moved back to Shreveport, and that was really cool. I came home during the summer of 2017, and I walked into Well Fed just to be a customer, get a juice, and I realized they were having the grand opening. And I was like, this is really cool. It's a plant-based business. I'm starting a plant-based business, and I spoke to the owner, Lindsay Martin, and asked if there was any way I could be a part of the opening, and she was like, set up a table, come on, bring it. And that was really, really cool. It was the first time I sold any products in Shreveport. I actually got into a store from somebody that came in, the owner of the Agora Borealis, Katie Larson, first person to carry my products in Shreveport. But that's really where I made the decision. I saw the young entrepreneurial ecosystem and how it was developing here, and I really want to be a part of it. And so I made the decision to move back, and the rest is history.
Yeah, so that brought you in. So Ben's Body Basics brought you into making these connections with other business owners, getting the business off the ground. You were in a store, and so where did you go from there?
So
that was what year?
That was around October of 2017 when I moved back.
Okay.
And my goal in moving back was.
And did you have a part-time job that was actually making you money?
No, no, I didn't. After getting laid off, I did not accept any more employment until.
So you had a little bit saved.
Yeah, I used all my severance money to start the business.
Got it.
When I got the check, I was like, all right, this is my business budget.
Right.
Let's see what I can do with this. So yeah, I moved back, was making the products at home, back in my high school bedroom where I grew up at. I'm back in the house with my mom, just cranking out products and finding opportunities for myself. Farmers market, drug emporium, Well Fed, doing pop-ups. It was all pop-up shops and markets. And then making little connections with other businesses. Was able to connect with a business in New Orleans and started doing some markets in New Orleans, which was really, really nice. I got to kind of expand my reach. That gave me the confidence and the courage to check out Dallas. Went out to Dallas, did a few markets and shows out there.
And what did you have produced at this point?
At this time, it was pure skincare products. It was body butters, body scrubs, bath salts, body oil, body spray. That was really it. Just like 4 or 5 product categories and about 5 or 6 different scents.
Right.
I just felt really good about what I was doing. More than anything, the metric for me was not how much money I was making. The metric for me was how many smiles I was able to put on people's faces.
It's a good metric.
I thank you. And I loved the fact, especially coming from that tech support job. I mean, you know what I mean?
Put no smiles on nobody's faces.
Customers came in slamming phones on the counter, why isn't my email working? It's like, oh, I'm going to try. And, the metric then really was trying to turn their frowns upside down. But it felt really nice that people were not walking up to the table already frowning. So my success rate was much higher.
Yeah.
But the metric has always been about trying to bring some joy to people's lives. Doing these markets and these shows, hitting up different markets like Dallas market and New Orleans, and just slowly kind of establishing a footprint and some brand awareness in Shreveport as a, legitimate business. I feel like certain metrics for whether your business is legitimate or not is whether or not you have a website, or whether or not you ship product online, whether or not you have a brick and mortar. So slowly I've been on this quest of legitimizing my business, so that it is, successful in my eyes, and something that can be a staple in our community.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, we started Clint Davis Counseling in 2018, I think. I'd have to look.
Time flies.
So yeah, it's around the same time,
Yeah.
that you were, coming back and doing that. So that's pretty cool.
Very cool.
So that parallel process of like, what's that, 7 years now? Yeah. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's wild how fast it goes.
It does. It flies by.
What did you find? Well, a couple of questions. I mean, I know you're a Christian. So what was your faith like in that season? What really got you through? Let's say there's a person that's in a job that they hate, or that's not very fun, or that's like they have no clue what could come out of a firing, right? Like,
yeah.
So, we hold these positions of like, here's what I'm doing, and if I ever lost this, right?
Sure.
What would I do? So how did you transition out of that? And then what were some of the things that were maybe difficult, or was it easy? I mean, how did you not fall apart whenever, you have this whole career and you've built it up and you've moved up, and then all of a sudden that gets ripped out? What were some of the things that you were able to do, or failures that you see now?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question. It's a great opportunity for me to, put a lot of people on my journey and my process. So, growing up, my father was a pastor. So I grew up, in the church. That was, a part of my DNA growing up. And we suffered a very kind of catastrophic event, loss of my brother and of a child from my parents. And it affected all of us very differently. For me, I slowly kind of felt myself distancing from God. And so while I was in Chicago, I was not really going to church. I was not really seeking him. And so in that particular season of making that decision to start this business, it was really kind of on my own strength. It was like in my mind, I wasn't as connected as I am now. Moving back to Shreveport, that's where my faith has really been restored. And, through my relationship with my wife, she has been very integral in helping me through this process and this journey. And so I'm so blessed and so gracious for all of that. So
shout out to your wife, Haley.
Shout out to my wife, Haley. I love you,
We'll
baby.
talk about her at some point. I mean, I guess we'll have to.
How can we not?
Yeah,
How
right?
can we not? So
Jesus and then Haley. We'll put them in proper order.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. So
on your own, you're in Chicago. You're kind of have this loss. You've learned to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I mean, you've had other things happen.
Yeah,
and you're kind of just going at it, going, I'm gonna excel and succeed on my own.
I just wanted to, do good work, make something that I felt was going to be good and helpful for people. A lot of people were struggling with topical skin issues like psoriasis, eczema, acne, and whenever your body is reacting to some type of inconsistency from within, and then you're putting products on top that are ridden with chemicals and things like that. It's like literally like chemical warfare on your skin.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. And
was that primarily from like an African American standpoint when it comes to skin? Was that kind of historically why you were dealing with it?
No.
Okay.
No. I wanted to help all people.
Right.
Now, when it comes to, our bodies and our skin, like, we're all different, right? So it can be challenging, especially when it comes to like, skincare, and then you got hair care. There's all different kinds of textures of hair and things like that. So things like that have played a role in my product categorization. Like, what am I going to put my energy into? Like, I try not to make any products that are going to really isolate me with a certain group of people. But even within that, we're all different. So.
Yeah, interesting.
So it can be challenging from a marketing perspective. I want my brand to be received well by everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
regardless
those
of
are
their
all
skin
those
color.
things you got to think.
Yeah.
It's crazy because all my buddies who I've played sports with, they're like, man, I got ashy knees, like they
Yeah.
got the shea butter out, and
Yeah.
I'm over here with like whatever white guy lotion that's or not putting on it any at all.
Yeah.
So when I think about that, I think about like just culture around that and how you have to as a you're creating a product, you're like, you don't want to narrow yourself into just this one thing.
Yeah.
And then also, how do you open the market to maybe cultures who don't see that as something you need?
Right.
And all that dynamic is really, really interesting and a lot to have to think through, I'm sure.
For sure. And I mean, honestly, like every decision you make, there's going to be like some consequences of that. So like being, like a black owned business and not having products that are like outwardly like intentionally for black people, some people might feel like my products are not designed for them because it's not
Explicit.
overtly explicit. And so and a lot of brands, a lot of black owned skincare brands are focused on those things.
Right.
Like that is kind of their target audience.
Yep.
And that has worked for them and it has helped them achieve that goal.
Which isn't a bad thing.
It is not a bad thing.
Right.
A lot of the ingredients are sourced from Africa.
Yeah.
And so, like shea butter comes from Ghana, Africa, and jojoba oil, things like that. And, I'm proud of the source of where these ingredients come from. But strategically for me, I want to make products that can be adopted by black people just as much as by other people.
Absolutely.
And
But that's a risk you take on either
is.
way, right? Like,
Yeah.
you narrow your scope and then have to widen it in other ways. And then you can widen it and then have to narrow it. So it's like,
yeah.
as a business owner, it's like, I know from marketing, it's like, there's not a better or worse, but it's what you choose to do that brings this interesting dynamic. So I think that's just so cool to think through, because most people don't do that or have to think through it or manage that expectation or whatever. I'm sure there's some tension on both sides with that.
Yeah, I mean, there can be. It's just one of those things. Like it's really not my focus. That's not, that's not a problem for me to really navigate. I guess I know what my goal is and the vision, and it's just if I can make a product for everyone, then that's really my mission and my goal. So I've been feeling
awesome,
good
man.
about it.
I think that ties us back into where we got off a total rabbit trail. But so so in the beginning, you're kind of just like, I'm going to make a product. I'm going to do well. I'm going to excel. I'm going to make this thing for people.
Yep.
Obviously, money is important at the time, but also just a general sense of like wanting to help people. So when this rug gets ripped up from underneath you and this opportunity comes, was that when you kind of went back to God, or was it, a transition, or how did you not fall apart when you lost your income? And
yeah. So let me think. It was very haphazardly.
Yeah. That's honest.
I created a website. Like it was janky. I just went after. I wasn't taking no like for an answer. I was just like, you know what? This is what I'm doing. I do not want to subject myself and expose myself to, another kind of illusion of security in corporate America.
That's a great point. I mean, in some ways, once you rip that off, it's like, well, I don't want to go back to
right.
Like cognitively, I can't now have cognitive dissonance. I know that if I get into another job like this,
right,
what am I doing? Another 5-10 years and the same thing happen? There's no the illusion of safety and security is gone. Yeah,
right. And now,
so that's a pro in some ways as an entrepreneur, because then it forces you to have to take the risk that your little Enneagram 3 brain,
yeah. And it wasn't as instantaneous as it might seem.
Of course.
Like, I updated my resume. I did have some job interviews. I had a job offer on the table. I was offered a job
where you're not stupid.
Austin.
You couldn't just do nothing.
Yeah. But I remember like in the middle of updating my resume one day, I just closed the laptop. I was like, this is just not like, I don't feel like I'm going to be maximizing my potential unless I am trying to, do something with the gifts that I've been given. I think the Lord has blessed me 100% with, my creative gifts, the way that I, kind of some things that I might even sometimes consider to be, Haley tells me, my wife tells me I have a wonderful, beautiful brain, just the way that I think. And sometimes I think it can be there's pros and cons to
A
it.
double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a
Trust me,
double-edged sword.
I get it.
Yeah. Because, my mind can be all over the place, but, I've been very blessed for sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, we laugh all the time. JC will see a look on my face and go, "What are you thinking about?"
Everything.
I'm like, well, I was just doing this thing. She's like, what? I was just, she's like, I was brushing my teeth, and I'm like, well, I was brushing my teeth and thinking about what God thinks about this and this opportunity and this client that said this and this podcast that I'm going to do. And, that could be a book. And just,
yeah.
And it's important, that's a great thing because you do get stuff done. But
Absolutely.
The other side is, just the quiet space of learning to calm down and just be, and it be okay not to achieve and not to think and not to save everybody. And I've been working on that a lot in my own therapy and with my pastor of just like not feeling responsible for all the things that go on in here. It's like God's giving you this gift, and that's where I think Satan comes in. And God's given you this gift, Ben. Like, you got to put it to use, and if you don't, you're not pleasing God. You're not, you're neglecting these gifts that's been given to you, and then we burn ourselves out or we get into situations that we shouldn't be in. So I hear that tension and that pain. Okay, so when was the shift where God kind of came? He was always there, but that you became more aware of. Oh man, like.
Yeah, over the course of the last couple of years, for sure. Haley and I have been together for 4 years. We've been dating, and over the course of that time, getting back into church and seeking Him, it's been just transformative, 100%. And I wish that throughout the course of this whole entrepreneurial journey over the whole 7 years, I had been more intentional. But the best is yet to come. It's a beautiful road ahead.
Absolutely,
and, man. Having God at the helm is going to be just so beautiful and amazing for me and my family and Haley. I just can't wait to see what He can do through us.
That's good, man. Yeah, I'll tell you a cool story about that. So when I was in the Army and we went to Afghanistan in 2003. So 9/11 happened when I was in, and then about a year and a half later, got deployed to Afghanistan.
Wow.
And at the time, I was 19, then turned 20, and me and my buddy CJ talk all the time about like, man, I wish we would have known better. Right? I wish I would have been the person that I am now, because I could have ministered, I could have loved on people better, I could have shared the gospel in these unreached places, all these stuff. And I'm like, man, I just regret, so much. And so kind of the same thing. Recently, a friend of mine who met at jiu-jitsu and who happens to go to a church that I've attended and these things, he called me, and he's a missionary internationally, and he's working with I can't remember the name of the people group. I think it's the Posh too, but I could butcher that completely. But the main people groups, the ethnicities of that culture are from Afghanistan and Pakistan. So they're over there, doing this missions work, sharing the gospel. And so he was asking me if I would come over and, help the missionaries and the people with EMDR and trauma work, because they've been through so much in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And so anyway, it's just kind of a crazy thing to see, like 20 something years later, how God is, using that to redeem, that people group that I totally missed, And then the other story I have is, was in the supernova Hurricane Katrina. So I went down to New Orleans. I'm a Louisiana kid, so it's always been a few hours from my house. And that was like devastating and worse than Afghanistan and worse than my other military deployments. But when I left there, I hated New Orleans. I hated everything about it. Very triggered by a lot of things around New Orleans, and was like, I'll never go back. It's a terrible city. It's broken. People are awful. It's decimated. So who cares? But over the course of, I don't know, the next decade, I was in a church, and like they were like, hey, we're going back down to the 9th Ward, which is where I was deployed to. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely not doing that. And yet the Lord was like, yes, you are. So started going down there, and for about 5 years, went back to the same place that was, I carried a weapon and saw death and destruction, and was able to kind of share the gospel and see people led to Christ and help support churches. So I say those two things, I think that is the whole like graves into gardens, right? Beauty from ashes, work of redemption that Christ brings in our lives, is that we're going to miss it.
Yeah.
we always miss it.
Absolutely.
You know, because the best is yet to come, like you said. And yes, that's in this life, that God has not just saved us from death and from hell, but that he's saving us for something in our life.
Right.
And so many of us are just like punched our ticket and glad he's saved us. And then we're like, let's wait for him to come back in heaven. And it's like, no, our job is to bring heaven to earth now. And that transitions us into eternity.
Yeah.
So the theology word is like eschatology. So it's like, what do we believe about the end times and the end? And so when I hear you say like the best is yet to come, like, yes, in this life and in the full redemption of it. So I just encourage you, like, you know, you are doing that. God is redeeming that space and already has in your marriage and, you know, eventually with your kids and all those kind of things. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful story, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So start going back to church, and now how did Ben's Body Basics transition into Clean Slate?
Yeah, so Ben's Body Basics transformed in 2022 to Clean Slate Botanicals. So
the other similarity is I was going to say, not to interrupt you, but I did, is that COVID happened in the middle of like, you know, I mean, same thing for me. You know, it's like I bought a building in 2018 or 19, and then all of a sudden 2020, it's like lockdown.
Yeah, that was crazy. So at the time, my business was on the backs of the markets and the stores that allowed me to do pop-ups in it. Like, that was my main stream of revenue. Like, I looked forward, I had an entire schedule of where I was going to be, from what times. And so, you know, I'll be at Drug Emporium, Well Fed,
Right.
you know, other
just
yoga
hustling.
studios, just setting up a table, putting all the products on display and selling. So when COVID happened, it was like, no more markets. That was the outlook. The outlook was like, no markets, no pop-ups, everything shut down. And I went to Drug Emporium to purchase some hand sanitizer, just like everybody else was. Like trying to get
that toilet paper.
Trying to get the toilet paper, trying to get the hand sanitizer, disinfectant spray, and they were out. They just didn't have any. And so then in Drug Emporium, I pull my phone out and I'm looking at like recipes, like what is in it, like what all's needed. And then I started shifting my mindset to driving around town to like procure all the ingredients so that I could make it. And initially I was not going to sell it. I was on the phone with my dad and he was like, you need to sell this stuff. And I'm thinking, like, people aren't thinking about shopping right now. Like, the world is ending. Like, that's the way, like, COVID was happening. I was like, dude, like, I'm not, like, my brain was not in a space of trying to capitalize, like capitalism. Like, I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah. Which was hard, you know. So many companies were taking advantage and upping their prices, and you know.
Yeah. However, I made a post because I'd made some product. I said, let me go ahead and like put a label on it and see what happens. I put a label on it, posted it, and like the internet was just like, it was getting shared like crazy. And so then I said, all right, well, I need to like make a batch, put this on a website. I contacted the person at Drug Emporium. They said I could come and I could sell that.
Oh, wow. So it was still B3 at that time?
Yeah, it was Ben's Body Basics premium hand sanitizer, and I made a box of them. I went to Drug Emporium, and I have never seen people react to a product the way that they did to this product on my table. And
Dude, we were going to skip this whole story. Like,
it was wild. It was like I sat the box down and, you know, it was just, people were just like lined up. People were like, how many can I buy?
Wow.
And I actually was like, 5. Like, you can buy 5. And they were like, I'll take 5. And I was like, wow. So then it was, all right, I was driving all around town every day, buying all the alcohol I could find, and eventually ran out of access. Yeah, eventually ran out of access. And so then I was contacting businesses, trying to figure out who would have access to larger quantities of alcohol. And there was a local paint supply company that had drums of alcohol. And so then I was able to purchase a drum of alcohol from them and started making bigger and bigger and bigger batches. And that sustained my business.
Wow.
During the very early years. It was hand sanitizer. Then the mask spray came about.
Oh, boy.
Do we remember everybody wearing these masks with evidence of their lunch on the inside the mask? Mask smelling like Popeyes. Like people wanted something to freshen their mask, and I said, all right, well, I'll just take this recipe, tweak
Not to mention how bad your breath smells in general.
Yep, your breath smelling bad, and now it's locked in behind this thing. So
it's a rough season.
So yeah, the mask spray, we had the lemon, the eucalyptus, and the lavender, and the peppermint, and they were all bangers for a while. And then it bottomed out.
Yep.
Like that had a season, and then like people weren't wearing the masks anymore. And people were not as interested in a essential oil based hand sanitizer. Like Purell was everywhere. And so it's kind of like, I have all these ingredients though now. I purchased 10,000 bottles and they're in my bedroom. and
there's only so much hand sanitizing I'm going to be doing.
Yeah. And so like, what am I going to do with all this stuff now? And awesome. That was really kind of the catalyst for the rebrand and for widening my lens was kind of the demand for those products diminishing. And then I was like, all right, so what can I take these ingredients and I can create a product that isn't as essential based, like, the disinfectant and such. And that's where I started leaning into like more aromatherapeutic products like the linen sprays and body sprays and stuff like that. And it was a nice move.
Okay. And so when the name change?
September of 2022, I had a VIP night and a rebrand. And we did that at the Andrus Artist and Entrepreneur Center building. And it was also the opening of the first Clean Slate store. So,
okay, so how did that, and let's talk about that transition. So you COVID ends, quote unquote, and then you start switching product. What made you want to change names? And then how did you go, I need a brick and mortar?
Yeah, so...
Is it because you did so well with that kind of COVID product?
So there were multiple factors that I would say indicated to me that it might behoove me to explore a rebrand. And so one of them was my product line demonstrating that it was not all encompassed in body care. Like I was starting to do things outside of body care. Another one was that there was some brand confusion. Folks saw Ben's Body Basics and they thought I was a personal trainer or, body shop or whatever. And, it wasn't that big of a glaring issue, but, you start adding all the issues up together. Another one was that I kind of wanted to establish a little anonymity with the brand. I didn't want it to be like all about Ben, because I felt like initially it was like me, I'm starting this brand, I'm doing it all, I'm making it all myself. But that sounds all fun and good at first, but my aspiration was for the brand to be more of a community brand, more of like a, I could step away one day. And whenever I started doing like markets and I got to where I needed a little help, I started to witness that everybody was connected to me and they wanted to know where Ben was. If I had an employee in Ruston and I was in Shreveport and we were both selling at a market, my customers in Ruston were like, where's Ben? And I actually had people drive from Ruston to the Shreveport Farmers Market because they wanted to shop with me. And so part of it was to strategize, okay, like for me to scale this, I feel like I need to not remove myself, but to start to have it represent what I really feel it is. And it's a community effort. Like everything that I had to show at that point was a reflection of the support that I received from, my customer base and my supporters. It's not like I'm Ben's Body Basics, like we are Clean Slate Botanicals. Like when we make a stride and then push an effort forward, it's a us thing. I had people come up and say to me like, oh, Ben, I'm so proud of you. And I would say, I'm proud of us. Like, this is not a me thing. This is a we thing. So I would say all of that was kind of in my brain as to like, okay, I think a rebrand needs to happen. I think this would be a good deal. And so did it in 2022. How I settled on the name, it was sitting around, I was thinking, I was kicking the ball around trying to figure out what I wanted the name of the brand to be. I started making the candles with the concrete, the slate color. So I was, slate gray, and then clean slate. Like a lot of folks are trying to start to transition to cleaner, better products.
What a sharp name. I mean, I literally just figured that out while you're talking. That's good.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of be like the training, like it could be overwhelming.
Yeah.
You don't know where to start with natural products.
Have a clean slate.
We have a clean slate for you. You can come in. We've got the entire face care kit.
Love it.
We got the best.
It's a good name,
products.
man. When you don't really, it's not as explicit and obvious, but also like,
Yeah.
I remember a day I was sitting in a pizza restaurant and I realized that Circle K was a circle with a K in the middle of it. It's about the same thing I just did with Clean Slate.
You were like, oh, there it is.
I was like, oh, or like you notice like the Amazon is a smile from A to Z, or the FedEx has the arrow in it. Things that you've seen the brand forever.
Right.
They probably spent a lot of time and energy making this thing.
Oh yeah.
And yet for 30 years, I didn't never notice that there was a circle and a K. So it's the same thing. It's great. It's great branding to go.
Thank you.
Clean Slate is, you hear clean, right? You hear this product is natural and organic and all these things. Yeah, slate gray is a color. Slate is just kind of a cool word that holds some things. But then I have never thought clean slate in the sense of like, you got a fresh start.
Yeah.
Yeah, until right now, which is crazy.
And then botanicals.
That might be because I'm stupid, but
No. Yeah. And so then you got your fresh start with products that are, infused with botanicals, and that's the whole shebang.
That's awesome. So what's a botanical?
Botanicals are just plants, natural plants, herbs like rosemary and oregano, lavender, orange. So we love what we do. It's very fulfilling to work with these ingredients, make these products, and then give them to our customers and our community here in the city. It's just been great.
Yeah, man. So you start the brick and mortar, and then recently you just opened a new office, right?
Yeah. So that was in downtown 2022, and then in November of last year, so it's amazing how God works. So I was at the farmer's market in 2023 at the farmer's market, and Mark Seeley, the owner of the property, he approaches my table, and in January, prior to the farmer's market, Haley and I had kind of looked at the property, and we were interested in moving into a space. We had toured a space. It wasn't in our budget at the time, so we felt like we just needed a little more time. So then Mark comes up to us at the farmer's market, and he was like, man, I thought we were going to get this deal done. And it was really cool because I didn't even know he knew what my brand was really. But we started, that was the start of the relationship of me kind of going in and trying to figure out what it would take for us to get into the shopping center, and we agreed on doing a pop-up in November for the holiday. So November through January was the original stint. And, we got the keys on October 27th. We got the keys to the space, and man, it was go time. Like the original plan was to be open on November 1st, cause that's when we started paying rent. I was like, all right, well, we're gonna be open,
making that money.
And my team was like, Ben, I don't know how you gonna do that, bro. And it took us a few extra days. We got it done. We were open November 4th, and had an opening. It was a ton of fun. And we've been in that space on Line Avenue, so it's in the Uptown Shopping Plaza. The landmarks are the Starbucks, the Jason's Deli, and the UPS store. So we're right next to the UPS store in the Uptown Shopping Plaza.
It's a great space.
Yeah,
I've been in there.
Yeah. I was happy to see you swing by and check it out.
That's right.
We got this book on the counter. It's called Building Better Bridges. Don't know if you've heard of it.
Thank you for your support and love.
Yeah, man, we love.
I've had so
support
many
you.
people who have come in and said, "Oh, I saw your book in this, candle place or whatever."
Yeah.
So-
We had a lady in there yesterday, actually. She popped in and she saw it. She was really she was so enthusiastic about the space.
Mm-hmm.
So like she came in and my heart was just like so warm and filled. She was, checking out our products. She was so excited. We were talking about, we were just talking about like family. It was Haley and I, and we're talking about all of that. And then she took a glimpse at it, and she was like, "Oh," she didn't know it was you, but she was like, "Oh, like this is so cool." And then I flipped around the book, and I said, "This is Clint Davis," and she was like, "Oh, I love Clint." Like she was so excited, and she was like, "How do I buy?" She was ready to buy the book that I had in my hand. I was like, "Okay, well you have to scan the QR code." So hopefully she made the order happen.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's just a great compliment. I feel I love having it there for people to see, for sure.
Well, yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's been the beautiful thing. We talked about this before, not on the podcast, obviously, but just like in Shreveport, our community in Shreveport and Bossier, just if you support one another, right? If you encourage people,
oh yeah,
like the connections that God makes,
yeah,
and rising tides raise all ships kind of mentality versus being just competitive and cutthroat and secretive and. It's like, but it's amazing, how many people won't put your candle anywhere or won't put your book somewhere or won't, out of fear or what? Like, it's like usually out of like, well, I don't want to be biased or I don't want to like promote this one thing and then promote other thing,
Right.
I had a good friend who, people that I love and respect, but they were like, yeah, we can't, if we share your book and we promote it, then we got to promote all these other people's books.
Right.
And there's part of me like, I get that. But what that communicates is that then you have a bunch of people that are the same level of friend.
Right.
So you just let me know exactly what level of friend I am, which is fine. But it's interesting when you run a business, and you have to find that tension of like, I get it. The amount of people who email me and go, "Hey, man, I know you have other therapists, but I want to see you." If I said yes to all those people, I mean,
you wouldn't have a book.
No, I definitely wouldn't have a book. I wouldn't have a brain either.
You wouldn't have a brain.
It'd be insane. But the point is like I empathize with that. But then there are times where you make exceptions, and you got to listen to the Holy Spirit. And so in your work, what are some ways that you're kind of listening to the Spirit? What are you looking forward to? Just to kind of wrap up, what do you feel like God's moving you to in the season? And what would you like maybe people in Shreveport and Bossier to know about Clean Slate and how you can provide for them? And
well, Haley and I, we go to church, and we every morning we pray, we ask the Lord for what He wants for us. We ask that specifically, like we don't want it unless it's what you have for us. And so while we might have some plans, we just want to do things the right way. So one thing I'm hoping for is that, the Lord will bless us with some longevity in the space that we're currently in. We're still operating on a month-to-month basis, but we are actively in the negotiation process of trying to get our lease locked in for the next 3 to 5 years. So hoping for that for my business, hoping to be able to connect more in the community. We've done some community-centric product collaborations, and
y'all did the veterinary, right?
Yeah, we did
University Health.
Yep, UVH Foundation, now UVH Cares. We did a puppy breath candle with them.
It does not smell like puppy breath, but it smells good.
You should know it does not smell like actual puppy's breath, but with the sale of that, a percentage of the sales go to the foundation to support their community efforts. And then we also did one during the holidays with the Hub Ministry with Rise Up and Roast. And we did a candle with them that supported what they got going. And
we did a candle for book promotion. Yeah.
Yes, we did. We did a Building Better Bridges candle, which was amazing. It smelled awesome. And so one of the things I just want to, be focused in working more with the community, being more intentional about that. We were just a late addition to the Give for Good campaign. Next year, I think we will try to be more involved on the build up of that. But we were able to raise a little bit of money for some local nonprofits, and we just want to be more involved. Just that's a big focus for me. And yeah, just
one thing I would encourage, people listening, if you're in Shreveport and Bossier and you have a business, use Ben's products. Like go, do a candle pouring experience, get a candle made. We all have to buy stuff for people. We all have to have products that we give out. People waste a lot of money on gift baskets. Churches, spend lots of money on giving gifts to people. So please don't go to Bed Bath & Beyond or Bath & Body Works or any of those kind of things.
Or whatever they're called.
Yeah, whatever the name of the non-locally owned, Candles Body,
Yeah.
Just if you're in Shreveport and Bossier, listen to this podcast. Listen to me. Listen, I'm going to do my radio voice. Buy Ben's candles, please. No. But seriously, like if you're going to shop and buy a product, why not buy it locally? And why not show support? So, I encourage you, real estate agents out there, the people who have to give a product, who want like maybe a fresh cookies or, whatever the thing is, like call Ben and talk to him, make a product to do something that's beneficial to him, that's beneficial to you, and, help our community to like really grow and blossom. And
absolutely.
And if you're a Christian, even more so, because so much of the business is just like secondary to the connections that God is using and making, and opportunities for missions and opportunities to love on people and support people and financially, help people will come if you just do the right thing and open yourself up to that. So I would just encourage any of you guys listening to this. And if you're out of state, look it up online.
Yep.
Look him up on Instagram. Look him up on. Are you in Facebook?
Yep. We got Facebook, Instagram, website.
It's all Clean
Slate Botanicals on Instagram and Facebook, and cleanslatebotanicals.com. Another thing I was just going to say is, we're not the only great local business. There is a strong ecosystem of locally made goods and products, and so there's just so many great businesses to check out here. And so my strong encouragement would be, if not me, then another locally owned small business right here in our community, because there's really a lot of good options out there for sure.
No, it's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to buy something, try to be mindful about, taking care of somebody around here, because it helps all of us economically.
It does.
It helps all of our families. It helps our taxes. It helps our streets. It helps our police. It helps all of the things that we all need. And I think just being mindful about that and just taking a moment and going, it's great to order stuff off Amazon. It's quick and easy.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to walk in somewhere, go on Line Avenue, grab some Jason's Deli, and then drop on in, grab you some Starbucks and drop on in. You just spent $27 on that latte. You can come buy a candle, right?
They are high.
Oh, bro. Oh, man. All right. Well, dude, lastly, I'm sorry. We're going to get in trouble if we don't do this. Can you tell me about your wife and just what she does?
Oh, man. Haley Brooke Whalen. What an amazing name.
Right.
Haley is, my lovely wife and an amazing, talented singer right here in our community. She sings. She's got a website. You can check her out, HaleyBrookeMusic.com. She is at steakhouses, local restaurants. She sings weddings and other private events. And when she's not doing that, she is the strong woman that is standing behind me, keeping me upright.
That's right, man.
I love her to death, man. You can find us at the store, man. We're there so much during the day. She's there right now. She made this podcast possible. She filled in for our
this episode
employee.
made possible by
Haley
our wives.
Yeah, absolutely, both of our wives.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, check her out. I'm going to try to have her on at some point if she'll do it. Well, dude, thank you so much. Thank you all for listening. We hope it's been encouraging. It's been really fun. Any last thoughts or words?
Oh, man, I'm good. Just thank y'all so much for listening. I love having opportunities like this, and this one was especially special because it was with Clint. So I appreciate the listeners that have been supporting Clint's podcast. And, y'all just keep doing what you're doing.
That's right. God bless you guys. Have a good week.